earlier in the book, which shows how far I've got into it, you talk about Nike losing its way.
Yeah.
And we've seen this a lot of clients who put too much of their investment into the performance marketing side of the P. What do you think is the cause of that?
Okay. There's a general trend, I think, which is, I totally agree with this, people who are ahead of growth and stuff like that. Marketing got sucked into the idea of growth. Growth is really important, but growth then becomes a number. Then when you get a number, people start saying, where's your number for the quarter? And then you're always going to hit the number that's in the short term. So Nike definitely had that. In fact, they removed it from the shops, and they also did something which was they decided what they were going to stop doing was talking about shoes. They were going to talk about why you should buy shoes. And then the guy left, and I think the share price went up about 10%. I think the issue is people have forgotten and don't know how to do brands. I think there's a trend coming back. So if you think that Nike rehired a Nike lifer to go back in, Starbucks, their share price went 10%. Another guy, sorry to say, from a management consultant, no disrespect. But what happened was it all got very functional, and you hit numbers. And it was a piece that earlier in the week, which is what happening is they're literally asked to do that. So anybody who wants to have the conversation, which is I need a bit of space, or can I invent a new product, it gets really, really hard to do. So I think it's a long-going trend. And you've got this horrible word called transformation. And transformation ultimately has meant you cut costs and you hit your number. But at some point when you've done that for so long, you haven't got anything that you built on. So it's really, you get Les Binet and all this stuff, and everybody will do what Les about, and Les is entirely right. But marketing is very much art science. And that's one of the things I think people have forgotten a bit in what's going through.
Any further ones? You don't have to, but got any, David?
As a management consultant.
I mean, an implication of what you're saying is because businesses are obsessed with numbers. Is there a way of measuring marketing success that is legitimate, that isn't tailoring to the obsessions of the chief financial officer?
Well, first of all, I don't think chief financial officer is necessarily the problem. There's lots of good chief financial officers if you can explain it, they get it. So there's a concept, Karen O'Connor's not here, who was from Dennis. He's having a massively successful company called Atlas now, where he's selling into investors that concept of whole life. So it's making you realise that it's not about this week. If I build this, I get the whole life value. And it's interesting if you think what Netflix have done or whatever, they sort of worked it out themselves over a period of time. They didn't, they started off with some freebies and everything else of it. So I think you can, but you just need to have space which are other metrics that are not just clicks or other bits. But it's business. At the end of the day, you're selling stuff. You can't be a flabby. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this up. It's all funny, la-di-da. Well, you're not going to live very long. But if people get it, I think they can persuade people. I just think people go back to why I read the book. I just don't think people are confident enough to do it. And it's easy to know I've got this Excel sheet or whatever it is now. I've plugged into ChatGPT. I've got the funnel. Funnel on the funnel. And then that's the answer. Sorry, Bond's very kindly pointing out I'm not speaking into the microphone.
Lady in the second row.
So I'm going to ask my management consulting question.
Yeah.
Mark, how do you think AI is really defining the marketing profession today? And
AI
what's next for
marketing. You've got
tomorrow?
this far without dealing with it seriously.
Okay, massively. Sadly as well. So I think there's my big problem is become about efficiency, and that's perfectly acceptable. Now we're on to agents. So this little story that was told. My agent would talk to your agent, and suddenly I booked the theatre. So you wouldn't have come here because I invited you. Your agent would have reckoned this on Eventbrite. So I think it's perfectly understandable people should do that. Why wouldn't you save time and effort doing it? I think the problem is in chasing that time and efficiency, you won't go and change the product. So growth becomes how do I get efficient as opposed to how do I understand a new concept or a new market or how do I reapproach people. The bigger issue, Dave Burse is here, who's by far and away the best people to AI. I really worry that we have a generation of people who stop learning how to think. So because you get used to doing it, it's your answer, and one of the ads up here is a joke, which is I put in what would you buy into ChatGPT if you're a startup and I come out as number one. The reason ChatGPT did that was because my book's short. Yeah. So it's nothing to do with quality. It's because it ticked the. Thanks, Justin. That's why I had David.
We're coming towards the end of our little 20-minute slot. I've got another little one for you here. One of my favourite sections towards the back of the book is brands that have gone wrong. Pick out your favourite. What's from some of the horror stories you can share? It's in the book, so just...
First of all, there's lots of articles you can search on about brands that go wrong. What I tried to do was to synthesise and say what are the mistakes, past, present, future, not to repeat. Okay. So one of them, for example, was British Airways, which decided, because it wanted to be international and cool, decided to remove the British Airways logo on every single tail fin. And it got lots of publicity, and then no one knew what it was or where it got through. And you go, really? Coca-Cola, which was, just in case not known, it's got the line, the real thing. They got worried about the Pepsi challenge, because people were saying Pepsi was better, so they reformulated Coca-Cola and killed it. And then more recently, you've got things like social media and tweeting. I think is getting very interesting because you get it amplified and it's negative before you know it. There was Adidas, I think, sent an email out to all their runners after the Boston Marathon, which then said the headline, "You survived the Boston Marathon." Yeah, because previously there'd been a bombing and a load of people got killed. Right, and this is because no one looks at something anymore, and it's got through. So I've tried in the book to go, you know, the other big one is generic brands. So everybody gets generic, which is a big issue that goes through.
Yeah. Okay, well look, I think we've come quite a bit, and you know, the book's there. People can see it, get it. I know you quite like reviews as well. So
Good man.
Yeah.
Top tip for the future: brief your interviewer.
That's like the only thing I remember that you told me. It's been a great pleasure. We chat at cricket and the golf course, but it's very nice to sit and shoot the breeze. And the last couple of days getting ready has been a pleasure as well. Thanks for being a great buddy, an inspiration, a wise sage. Just to finish, I mean, the book is of course available on Amazon and other.
Yeah, I loathe it's available on Amazon, but you've almost got no choice. It's because they've like a platform brand that, you know, if you're not, people won't buy it, even though they're destroying the world.
I know there's some tension between that, but I think there was a quote.
Yeah, but all marketing's bad.
Just there's that quote from Jeff Bezos, which is in the book about a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. I thought we should say something about you when you are in the room and show appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Palmer.
Food, drink, and anybody who would get Champions League on. That's my son in particular. Right, I'll have a chat now, I'm finished.